bodies of the saints, this is verse 52, and many of the bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And they came out of the tombs after his resurrection. Okay, a key piece here. Okay, this resurrection didn't, them coming out of the tomb didn't happen on that Friday. Okay, this says here that they came out of the tombs after his resurrection, and they entered into the holy city, appearing to many. Why is that important? Because Jesus is the first resurrection. Okay. And so he rose, and then these other saints also rose with him. And they were walking around the city and appeared to many. And so the resurrection, and so that's why it's a key piece. Christ died, and we'll see this next week when we study verse 28. When Christ dies, he puts the end to death. Paul writes, he says, there is, death, where is thy sting anymore? Christ's resurrection ended. So his death opened the veil. His death finished the requirements of the law, and his resurrection, put an end to death altogether.
I think that resurrection here that's talking about here too is that's only recorded in Matthew.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. This was only recorded in Matthew. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know what happened after, if they rose, if they eventually went to, if their body resurrection went up to heaven with, after Christ rose. We don't, again, it goes back here. Things that you don't know, that are only known to God, are known to God. The things that are known, I'll teach. And so, for here, all we know is that these guys were resurrected. After the resurrection, it says, they come in and people recognize them because they were dead. They were in the grave. Hey, there's so-and-so. And they walked around the city and people recognized what was going on. What, Josh?
I had an interesting thought that when they had to kill him, bury him, and all that stuff, left it so that way it was on Sunday that he could be risen from the dead. In the beginning, what did he say on the first day? Let there be light. He's the way, the truth, the light. I just thought it was pretty.
Yeah, it is.
Lined up that way.
I'd like to know the thoughts that were going through the people's heads that are sitting here watching this. Especially the ones that sit there crucify him over and over and over. When they see this take place, I wonder how many of them joined Judas.
I don't know if they joined Judas. I know that the centurion, it says in Scripture, the centurion that was watching over Jesus during his crucifixion said, "Truly, this is the Son of God."
Yeah.
I think for those whose hearts were open to God to see what was going to happen, just like he told Pilate, he says, the truth is that all who know me know the truth. And then when Pilate says, "Well, what is truth?" Pilate wasn't open to hear that. And the religious leaders weren't open to hearing, because you're going to see this here. It's interesting. They really remembered a lot of the things that Jesus said, even though the disciples are off hiding. Watch what happens next. So anyway, let's keep going.
Because I want to expand on how do you think the chief priest felt when the curtain was rented too?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to make a distinction between the chief priests and the public.
Yeah.
All right? And it goes on a little bit further. It talks about Mary and Joseph were followers. It was obviously at the crucifixion scene, and I want to just throw a number out. 90% of them want him crucified, but there were 10% there that really knew who he was.
Right.
What's even more astounding is that centurion who says, "Surely this is the Son of God." He's a guy who didn't believe in God because he was a Roman. He believed in multiple gods.
Yeah.
And he got the message. If he can get it, everybody there should have got it.
Should.
And as I said to you on a couple occasions, they're a bunch of jackasses. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Stupid.
And he didn't say King of the Jews. He said Son of God.
Son of God.
Yeah, so let's look at verse 54. Now the centurion and those who were with him, keeping guard over Jesus, when they saw the earthquake and the things that happened, they became very frightened, and they said, "Truly, this was the Son of God." Not King of the Jews, but the Son of God. And like Paul said, this is a guy who believes in, he may or may not believe in all the Roman gods, but he was raised not to believe in the true God. and yet he recognized there was something special about who this person was. Many women who were looking on him from a distance, who had followed him while he was ministering, and were among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and also the Salome the mother. And it says in Matthew the mother, but her name is Salome, the son of the sons of Zebedee, who is James and John. So verse 57. When it came evening, okay, now it's starting to get before, because again, the Passover begins at what time?
Sundown.
Sundown. So we don't know exactly, Jesus, it was in April, so most likely the sundown, this period of time, was probably around about 6:30 time frame. But, so what happens is, as evening was approaching, a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself had also been a disciple of Jesus, this man went to Pilate and asked for the body. Now we also find out that there's another person along with Joseph. If you read the other gospel, you'll find out Nicodemus, who also meets Jesus in the very beginning of his first year of ministry, and recognizes also a believer. But they were very quiet. Okay, I'm sure when Jesus was standing before all these religious leaders in the trial, these two guys were probably there, but they probably weren't the ones saying, "Crucify him, crucify him." But anyway, so Joseph goes to Pilate, and Pilate orders to give the body to him. And so Joseph took the body, wrapped up in clean clothes, laid him inside of a new tomb which he had hewed out of the rock, and he rolled a large stone against it and the entrance of the tomb. Now, again, this fulfills prophecy, because if you go to Isaiah 53:9, it says his grave was assigned by the wicked man, but yet he was a rich man in his death, because he had done no violence and because there was no deceit in his mouth. And so, again, and this wasn't Joseph's tomb, okay? Because most likely he wasn't building a tomb for himself close to Golgotha, where other people died. He was just, in a sense, he was probably building tombs for people who have been crucified or been condemned, for people to come and buy their tomb and stuff like that. He was a rich man. He was a businessman. And so, but anyway, so they laid him in here. And again, and we don't have the time, but again, I would, and we'll probably get into this more in chapter 28, the linens that they wrapped him in, and how that linens ends up lying on the tomb. But and Mary and